I'm speaking to the woman who has a million reasons for playing small. Reasons, excuses. Some we know right from the start, they're complete BS. Because they're so entirely surface level that if we take an honest look, we know it's not a good enough reason. But then some may seem completely legit, like genuine reasons to put our desires on the back burner. Things like waiting until we lose weight, waiting until we have the right space to do the thing we want to do in the right way, waiting until we have it all figured out, waiting until we have more time because right now, so many other people need us. Our kids, our partners, our parents. We may have imposter syndrome and think that we don't know enough or that we haven't gotten clear enough on what our dream even is, which I would argue is also BS. Sometimes these excuses seem so real that we're not even fully aware they're really there because there's so much fear hidden beneath them. We're placing so much importance on defining ourselves by the outcome we fear is going to happen, or the fear that the outcome we want is not going to happen. Playing small will cost us years. Playing small will lead to us looking back at the end of our life with one of the core 5 regrets of the dying, that I didn't live a life true to myself. Playing small will cost us the impact we're here to make. I want to sit in that for a second, because it'll cost you years can sound kind of abstract until you actually picture it. It's not just years on the calendar and waiting for the thing you want. It's the version of you that existed inside those years, quietly shrinking. It's the other things that you could have created if you had done the one thing that held so much of your energy simmering below the surface. It's the vision you had at 28 that's still sitting in your chest at 38, untouched. It's looking at someone else doing the thing you knew you were meant to do and feeling that specific ache. Not jealousy exactly, more like grief for a version of yourself that you'd never let fully live. It's the way someday starts to feel like a place you'll never actually arrive at, because every year you find a new, completely legitimate reason it's not quite time. That's the cost. Just a slow, quiet erosion of the life you actually wanted. A constant living for the someday what if, which keeps you from ever fully experiencing the present. Here's the thing about these reasons, though. They don't start as adults making strategic decisions about timing. They start as kids drawing conclusions about what's safe for us to want, or who it's safe for us to be. I'll tell you mine. When I was 3, my mother left. After some time in foster care, I went to live with my grandparents. I was a loud and vibrant kid, but I was also hurting. I was expressive, and at some point, my grandparents made the decision to put me up for adoption, so I could have what they thought of as a more normal life, and so they could stay my grandparents instead of my caretakers. My 3-year-old brain didn't have the capacity to understand any of that context. What my 3-year-old brain concluded was, I am too much. I am too difficult. I need to be quiet. I need to not take up so much space. And then, years later, whenever I'd talk about my big dreams, my dad would say things like, that kind of thing is for other people. People with something special, not realistic for me. I picked up a second message, sitting right on top of the first one. I'm too much, and I'm not enough for the things I want the most. I have spent so much of my life living in that push-pull. Maybe you can relate. Wanting more constantly, and also trying to become perfect before letting yourself want it out loud. Afraid you're not worthy of what you wanted, and so deciding the safest thing to do was wait. Wait until we have the proof, until we feel completely ready, until we know we've earned it. If you're sitting there and some version of this lands for you, maybe yours wasn't adoption or parents' offhand comment about what's realistic for dreams. Maybe it was being the kid who got called dramatic or sensitive. Maybe it was learning that your needs came second to keeping the peace, or that being good meant being quiet. Different details, same conclusion. Somewhere back there, you learned that taking up space wasn't safe, and your nervous system has been protecting you from that ever since, by keeping you small. What a brilliant adaptation. And yet, as we grow, the reasons that once protected us become the same reasons that are costing us. That fear doesn't just disappear once you decide to fight it either. I want to tell you about something that happened recently to me. I had had an experience that gave me this huge spark of inspiration, a topic I was so excited to talk about, and I had begun writing pieces of it, making notes about the parts that I wanted to share and why I felt like it was going to be so impactful. But I hadn't yet pulled the trigger. And then I came across a woman on YouTube with the literal exact title of the topic that I had just decided to make. And she said almost everything I wanted to say, in her own incredible way, obviously. But the core idea, the thing I thought was so impactful about it, was already out there, and it was being said by someone I saw as brilliant. Now, I had only just discovered her, mind you, but once I discovered her, I loved her, and suddenly I was in comparison, and I didn't measure up. I took it as a massive ego hit because, who was I to speak when this incredible, fabulous queen was already speaking on it? I'm not ashamed to admit that it took me like a full month to even go back to that topic. I just shoved it on the back burner. I told myself maybe I'd get to it once I found my version of it, whatever that meant. Here's what eventually shifted for me. First, I had to acknowledge that she might be exactly who some people need to hear that message from. Young, bright, vibrant, playful. And I actually might be exactly who other people need to hear it from. A middle-aged, divorced, single mom who's lived a very different version of getting to this point. We're not actually interchangeable. The same idea lands differently depending on who's saying it and who's listening. Second, I thought about one of my absolute favorite books, Steal Like an Artist, and one of its truest truth bombs is, no idea any of us has is 100% original. None of them. The sooner we can actually let that sink in, the freer we are to get to work creating, instead of waiting for some idea no one has ever had before, which, newsflash, isn't coming. I want us all to shine a light on this pattern, to call bullshit on it, to stop letting it run the show from our subconscious and instead catch it and say, oh, there you go, silly little thing. Here we are making shit up again that is designed to keep us small. That's okay. We can do it anyway. We can show up anyway, even when we have a million reasons to play small instead. So here's what I want to leave you with. Before this week is out, I want you to actually sit down and write out your million reasons, all of them. The ones that sound noble and the ones that sound flimsy. Write them all down. For every I don't have the right outfit, there is also a I don't know if people will still love me if I say this out loud. I want the meaningful and the seemingly not so meaningful. And then I want you to go back through and next to each one, cross them out. Ask yourself as you look at them, is this true? Is this completely true? How silly would it be if I was letting this be true when it is absolutely just a story I'm telling? And do I want this silly little thing to keep me from living the life I want to live? You don't have to fix the fear this week. You just have to see it. Because the second you can see it clearly on paper, in your own handwriting, it stops running you from the dark. It becomes something you're choosing to walk through instead of something quietly making choices for you. A million reasons for playing small, and every single one of them is optional.